سے صدا دیتی ہے، کون خاتون یہ خیموں سے صدا دیتی ہے، کانپ اٹھتی ہے زمین عرش، ہلا دیتی ہے، کون خاتون یہ خیموں سے صدا دیتی ہے، ایک بیمار کو کاندھے اٹھا کر ایک بیمار کو کاندھے اٹھا کر کبھی اکبر کبھی قاسم کو صدا دیتی ہے، کبھی اکبر کبھی غازی کو صدا دیتی ہے، کانپ اٹھتی ہے زمین عرش، ہلا دیتی ہے، کون خاتون یہ خیموں سے صدا دیتی ہے، کون خاتون یہ خیموں سے صدا دیتی ہے، کون خاتون یہ خیموں سے صدا دیتی ہے، کانپ اٹھتی ہے زمین عرش، ہلا دیتی ہے، کون خاتون یہ خیموں سے صدا دیتی ہے، ایک بیمار کو کاندھے اٹھا کر ایک بیمار کو کاندھے اٹھا کر کبھی اکبر کبھی قاسم کو صدا دیتی ہے، کبھی اکبر کبھی غازی کو صدا دیتی ہے، کانپ اٹھتی ہے زمین عرش، ہلا دیتی ہے، کون خاتون یہ خیموں سے صدا دیتی ہے، کون خاتون یہ خیموں سے صدا
Dear brothers and sisters, السلام علیکم. میں آپ سب کی خدمت میں جو کلام پیش کروں گا وہ امام زمانہ جو غربت میں اور جو غیبت میں جس طرح سے واقعہ کربلا کو یاد کرتے ہیں، شاعر نے اس کو اپنے انداز میں اور اپنے خیال میں رقم بند کیا ہے، اور اس کے زبان حال سے اس نے یہ پیش کیا ہے کہ امام کیسے کربلا کو یاد کر کے اور بی بی زینب کو اور ان کے پردے کو یاد کر کے غمزدہ ہو جاتے ہیں. میں وہی کلام آپ کی خدمت میں پیش کروں گا. ایک دفعہ مل کے میرے ساتھ درود پڑھیے. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہ. کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے، کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے. اسے زینب کا جب بازار جانا یاد آتا ہے، کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے. کوئی غم خار غیبت میں میسر ہی نہیں اس کو، کوئی غم خار غیبت میں میسر ہی نہیں اس کو. سو تنہائی میں ہر نوحہ وہ خود کو ہی سناتا ہے، کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے. انہی گلیوں میں چل چل کر جہاں چلتی رہی زینب، انہی گلیوں میں چل چل کر جہاں چلتی رہی زینب، نشاں زینب کے قدموں کے وہ ہاتھوں سے مٹاتا ہے، کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے. بقیے میں صدائے واہ حسینہ گونج اٹھتی ہے، بقیے میں صدائے واہ حسینہ گونج اٹھتی ہے. وہ جب بھی قبر زہرا آ کے سینے سے لگاتا ہے، کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے. نہیں تھمتے ہیں اس کی آنکھ سے آنسو کسی صورت، نہیں تھمتے ہیں اس کی آنکھ سے آنسو کسی صورت. اسے بے شیر کا جب مسکرانا یاد آتا ہے، کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے، خیال آتا ہے جب بھی پردائے زینب کا مہدی کو، خیال آتا ہے جب بھی پردائے زینب کا مہدی کو، کبھی تلوار پر کبھی تلوار پر وہ ہاتھ رکھتا ہے، ہٹاتا ہے کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا، خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے، اسے زینب کا جب بازار جانا یاد آتا ہے، کوئی غیبت میں بیٹھا، خون کے آنسو بہاتا ہے۔ صلوات پڑھی محمد وعلی محمد، اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد وعجل۔ سورہ فاتحہ۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ یہ جناب میر تکلم صاحب کا کلام ہے، اس میں انہوں نے جب سر سارے لائے گئے تھے بیویوں کے پاس، تو انہوں نے اپنے خیال میں اس منظر کو پیش کیا ہے۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ بلا لائے سکینہ کو کوئی زندان سے جا کر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ یہ شیر کربلا ہے، اس کی غیرت کا تقاضا تھا، کھلا سر دیکھ کر نیزے سے جو یہ سر گراتا تھا، نہیں ہے پاس گر چادر تو رکھ لو ہاتھ ہی سر پر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ بھرا ہوگا لہو آنکھوں میں اس کی، خود ہٹاؤں گی میں بچپن کی طرح سے بھائی کا چہرہ دھلاؤں گی، اگر ممکن ہے تو دے دے کوئی پانی مجھے لا کر سر عباس آتا ہے، کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ مجھے اٹھنا پڑے گا بیبیوں تعظیم کو اس کی، میں ماں ام البنی کی سمت سے غازی کو چوموں گی، سنبھالے سر کوئی آنو محمد کے یہاں کر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ اسی احساس سے اس نے نظر اپنی جھکائی ہے، اسے معلوم ہے یہ کتنا غیرت مند بھائی ہے، چھپائے کس طرح زینب پڑے ہیں نیل شانوں پر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ تھے سب کی جھولیوں میں اپنے اپنے لاڈلوں کے سر، رقیہ ام لیلا ام فروا مادر اصغر، اٹھی کہتے ہوئے ہر ماں سر اپنے لال کا رکھ کر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ تکلم شامیوں کی عورتیں بھی روتی جاتی ہیں، علی کی بیٹیاں جلدی سے زخموں کو چھپاتی ہیں، کھڑی ہے ہاتھ پھیلائے ہوئے خود زینب مضطر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ کہا زینب نے یہ رو کر، سنبھالو بیبیوں چادر، سر عباس آتا ہے۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہ۔
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ الحمد للہ الذی قصرت عن رؤیتہ ابصار الناظرین، وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يوم ندعو كل أناس بإمامهم فمن أوتي كتابه بيمينه فأولئك يقرؤون كتابهم ولا يظلمون فتيلا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is the last majlis in this series of majalis. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بالحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام. This year in these majalis of Arbaeen, the topic that I chose to discuss was the Ma'rifat of Imam Zamana. And in the 3 majalis that I got the opportunity to speak to you, with the exception of that one majlis where I could not be in your service, we spoke on various aspects of the wujud of Imam Zamana. We talked about his existence, the aqidah, our duties to an extent, the ayat of Quran that allude to Imam Zamana, and the governance that he will establish. We spoke briefly about the philosophy of waiting and what it is that's our duty in the ghaibat of Imam. There was this concept that, Imam al-Mahdi, who is ghaib, the concept of ghaibat, how do you understand it? And some people thought ghaibat means that Imam is in ghaibat, like, for example, Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala negates his killing or being crucified. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him back. That's not similar to what Imam Zamana is like. Imam Zamana's Viladat took place in the year 255 after Hijrah, and his ghaibat began with the martyrdom of his father, Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salatu wasalam. He was in minor and then now in major occultation, as you will go over that. So sometimes people have hard time embracing this concept, that what does it mean to be ghaib? There's 2 things. One is shakhs ghaib, the other is shakhsiyat ghaib. Shakhs ghaib means a person who's not around. Maybe, for example, when Prophet Sulaiman spoke about the assembly that he had, in which one of the birds was ghaib. That means he was physically not present there. So when a person is not physically present, that is shakhs ghaib. But a lot of time the person is present physically, but the shakhsiyat is ghaib, which means that Imam Zamana, who's around us, in our surroundings, in this very earth, he's somewhere, but his shakhsiyat is unknown to us. Without any comparison whatsoever, we're all khadim of Imam Zamana. But just so that taqarrub zahni, I can explain this for my children, that a lot of time you may have seen the ulama and the scholars wearing this libas, where you have the hat, which is called the amama, you have the qaba, and then you have this aba on top. This is the garb and the libas that ulama usually wear. But of course, many of us and majority of us, when we're traveling via airplanes or other modes of transportations, where we will be in the public, we normally don't wear this garb. We go in the libas, which is accustomed to the eyes of the people here around, without raising any eyebrows and whatever the case may be, just to avoid any sort of conflict, just to avoid being noticed, just to avoid being in the eyes of the public with all the hype and the propaganda that is happening. So a lot of time I've met people while I was traveling at the airport, and some people had a hard time recognizing me because they never seen me without this libas. And so when they came up, or especially nowadays when you're wearing the mask, it's further more difficult. So when you speak to them and they're like, oh, you're Maulana, sorry, I couldn't recognize you. So example is that I was there with them. My wujud al-shakhsi was present with them, but my wujud al-shakhsiyat, the personality, was missing, because they recognized my personality through this libas, through Maulana, and that was lacking, and so they were unable to recognize me. With this example, of what I wanted to explain to my young ones is that Imam Zamana is present physically amongst us. It's the inability by us to recognize him. His shakhsiyat and personality is missing from our eyes. Remember the story and the examples of the sun behind the cloud that we had given. There are two things that do not allow you to see the sun. One, if you don't have correct eyes, if your eyes are weak, or if your person is blind, they can't see anything, they can't see the sun. Or if there's a veil between your eyes and the sun. So I'm sitting in my basement, there's no window around here, there's sun shining outside, but I can't see it. There's no way possible for me to see that sun as long as I'm here. So there's a veil. Or if someone puts a blindfold on my eyes, there's a veil. So that's disabling you from seeing something physical. In reference to Imam Zamana, with the fact that we can't see him or have the same interaction as many others have had, is because of two things: corrective lens and the veil. This corrective lens does not mean our eyes are weak. No, we have good eyesight. And there's no veil either physically, but it's the veil of sins and the veil of zulm, the covering of guna that has disabled us from seeing things clearly. If you're wearing sunglasses, you'll see things dark. If your sunglasses are, for example, I don't know, blue shade or red shade, you'll see things in that shade. So why does everything seem red to me? Why does everything seem blue to me? Because that's the shade you're wearing in front of your eyes. Remove that and you will see the real picture. That's exactly the problem with us. So some people thought that in the time of ghaibat, even mentioning the name of Imam is not permissible. Some said it's haram. Some said it was not allowed until the zuhur. And some mentioned that it was due to the fear and taqiyya. And some mentioned his name sarahatan, without any hesitations. It is understandable that in the time of ghaibat al-sughra, that's 69 years from year 260 to 329, because Imam was only in contact through his 4 appointed representatives, and he would not meet anyone. Just imagine how difficult it would have been for Imam. That's why naming Imam by his name could trigger the enemies to hear and find a lead to get to Imam, because these 4 represent. Now Allah can protect Imam as much as he can or as much as he wants, but because he designed it so that in these 69 years, Imam is in constant physical contact with these four representatives. So when these four representatives come and meet Imam, that could give away the Imam's location. So because of that fear and khawf, people said, don't name Imam. Don't mention his name, because if the enemies who are always surveilling, they hear the name of Imam, they'll find a lead, they'll be able to gain access to. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected the birth of Imam Zamana, that the asar of Haml was not apparent to anyone. Only our 11th Imam is aware of that. The mother of Imam is aware of that. Even the immediate family members have no idea. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected. Similar to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected Hazrat Musa والسلام, from the evil agenda of Fir'aun. They wanted to, and they killed all the children that were born that year. Allah said, we will raise our representative in your house. That's how we'll deal with it. So that could have been the reason, out of taqiyya and khawf, that it was prohibited, and the hurmat of mentioning his name. But that is no longer the case. In the Ghaibat al-Kubra, that's no longer the case. Therefore, mentioning his name with his titles has absolutely no barring and no prohibition. So one of the, his name, of course, is Muhammad. The Prophet said, Ismuhu Ismi. His name is my name. But one of the famous titles of Imam Zamana is Mahdi. Narrations from Amir al-Mu'mineen, when asked about his name, or this particular name, is that Allah will expose hidden deeds from him that no one ever knew. Some riwayat mentioned that human beings have been given 2 out of 27 ulum. And when Imam Zamana reappears, he will explain the remaining 25 ulum and the sciences that are hidden from us. Just imagine, with the 2 out of 27 that is available to us, the advancement we think are out of this world, what kind of knowledge Imam Zamana possesses. Fifth Imam said, إِذَا قَامَ مَهْدِيُنَا أَهْلُ الْبَيْتِ قَسَّمَا بِالسَّوِيَّةِ وَعَدَلَ فِي الرَّعِيَّةِ مَنْ أَطَاعَهُ فَقَدْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهَ وَمَنْ عَصَاهُ فَقَدْ عَصَى اللَّهَ وَإِنَّمَا سُمِّيَ الْمَهْدِي لِأَنَّهُ يَهْدِي إِلَى أَمْرٍ خَفِيٍّ. So when our Qaim will rise again, he will divide the wealth, proportionally. He will establish justice between his people. Whoever obeys him, indeed obeyed Allah. Whoever disobeyed him, indeed disobeys Allah. إنما سمي المهدي, he is named Mahdi لأنه يهدي إلى أمر خفي, because he will guide us toward these secret commands. Another name of his is Qaim. Abu Hamza from 5th Imam inquired about this name, Al-Qaim. He said, aren't you all Qaim bil Haqq? Imam said, when Hussein was martyred, he saw him standing and praying. Allah said, I will use him to take revenge of Hussein. So the fact that he's called Qaim, that he will Qaim, he'll stand, he'll rise on Haqq, and one of the duties will be to take the revenge. Allah is Muntaqim, the one who takes revenge, and this revenge will be taken through Imam Zamana, who will rise and his Qiyam will take place. Another name is Muntazar, because his followers are anxiously waiting for him. He's called Sahibul Amr, right? His obedience is wajib on everyone, including the prophets. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu atiyu Allah wa atiyu Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. O those who believe, do the ita'at of Allah, ita'at of Rasul, and the ulul amr, those who've been vested authority amongst you. So people misunderstood this ulul amr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about innama waliyukumullah allazina allama waliyukumullahu wa rasuluhu wallazina amanu allazina yuqimuna salat wa yutuna zakat wa hum raki'un. If you have an issue over here in this ayat that obey Allah, obey the Prophet, and ulul amr from you, then refer to another ayat of Quran which is doing the tafsir of this ayat. that innama waliyukum Allah. Indeed, your wali is Allah. Who's your ul amr? Wa rasuluhu, and his rasul, apostle, is your ul amr. Walladhina amanu, and those who brought iman. This is a very broad understanding. Who? Many people brought iman. Does that mean they're all ulul amr upon us? He said, no, this is where takhsis comes into play. Allazina amanu, allazina yuqimuna salat. Still, those who establish the prayer. Wa yu'tuna zakat, and those who give zakat. Still is a very broad perspective. Wa hum raki'un, those who give zakat in the halat of ruku'. In the halat of ruku', you find only one individual, that is Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. So this is the concept of ulul amr comes into play. And from his progeny, all will be these ulul amr, and sahibul amr is Imam Zaman. He is hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna lillahi hujjatain, hujjatul zahira wa hujjatul batina. Zahiri hujjat of imam are imams, are the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So many occasions the riwayat mention that, the earth will come to an end and there won't be anyone remaining. لو لم يبقى من الدنيا إلا يوم واحد لطول الله ذلك اليوم. And the earth cannot be void of the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All that is referring to Imam Zaman. One of his name is Baqiyatullah. Upon his reappearance, he will lean onto the wall of Kaaba with his 313 companions and recite this: Baqiyatullah khayrun lakum in kuntum mu'minin. What remains of Allah's provision is better for you. And then Imam says, Ana Baqiyatullah. I am that Baqiyatullah. He's also known as Khalf, Ya Khalf as-Salih, because he is the warith of all the prophets. There's a discussion regarding Imam's family, that he's called Aba Salih. Right? One of the kunniyat of Imam is Aba Salih. You call him Ya Aba Salih Adirkni. Remember the story of that young man who called upon Imam Zamana, who was taught by his mom that whenever you run into an issue, problem, difficulty, sincerely say Ya Aba Salih Al-Mahdi Adirkni. So Aba Salih, meaning what? That he's the father of someone whose name is Salih. Does that mean Imam has family? Let me elaborate. We call Rasulullah Abul Qasim or Abul Qasim. Why? Because he was the father of Qasim. We call Imam Ali Abul Hasan because he's father of Hasan. And similarly, we call Imam Hussein Aba Abdullah because he's father of Abdullah, and so on and so forth. So usually the name of the child in Arab culture is, you are called with the name of your child. Even when we were living in Syria, a lot of people would ask us, are you married? If you're married, if you have kids, and you tell them your kid's name, they'll call you from that name. Some of the friends that we have made after going for ziyarat of Arbaeen and Karbala, they won't call me with my name. Rather, they will call me with the kunniyat. For example, my daughter's name is Sani Zahra. So they say, well, Ya Aba Zahra. That's how they will call you. This is the Arab culture. Existed all along. So he's called Aba Salih. Does that mean he has a son by the name Salih? There's a discussion about it. We don't have much information, but ulama have spoken about it. Some mention that it's easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep him and his family hidden, and he might as well may have a family. But it would be easier for him to not have a family at the moment because of this important task that is awaiting him. And because if we anticipate him having a family, then because he's 1100 plus years old, does that mean his wife and kids are also that old? Their norms are broken for the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Ibrahim was thrown into fire. Allah said, Ya naru kuni bardan wa salam ala Ibrahim. The fire became cool for Ibrahim. Fire's duty is to burn. It didn't burn Hazrat Ibrahim. So Allah changed the course of natural effects. He could do the same thing with Imam Zaman. But does that mean he does it for his family as well? And so then what does that mean, Ya Aba Saleh, father of Saleh? Well, there are certain associations which do not reflect on the fact that you are father of this person. For example, Amirul Mu'mineen, while he's known as Abul Hasan, he's also known as Abu Turab. We call him Abu Turab. Abu Turab or Aba Turab is one of the titles of Amirul Mu'mineen. He didn't have a son by the name Turab, did he? So he's called Abu Turab. Rasulullah gave him that title when he was sleeping on the floor of the masjid and there was dust on his clothes or in his head. Rasulullah woke him up and said, Ya Aba Turab. So Imam liked that title so much that he adopted it. But it didn't mean that he is the father of someone who's Turab. You know, for example, Janab Zainab is known as Razaya, Masaib. Or, for example, some of the cities are called, Makkatul Mukarramah is known as Qura, the mother of all the Qura or the Qarya, the cities. Doesn't mean that Makkah has a child named Qura or something like that. These are used for al-zamat. Similar could be the title Aba Saleh, that is the father of Saleh, righteousness, sulh, and it may be indicative of the the taqaddus of Imam Zamana, more so than him having a son by the name. But nonetheless, it is something which is still debatable, but we'll remain content with this one. So one of his titles is Aba Saleh. Ghaib, because he's hidden, which has been explained by prophets and imams, so that people will be prepared for it and not deny his existence. Because there will come time when people will question Imam Zamana's wujud. Wujud Mahdi अकायद का मसला नहीं है, रसूल की सदाकत का मसला है. क्योंकि रसूल ने फरमाया था 12 खलीफा होंगे, आखिरी महदी होगा, कुरैश से होंगे, बनु हाशिम से होंगे, फातिमा और अली की नस्ल से होंगे, हुसैन के बाद नवा हसन अस्करी का बेटा. This is what Rasulullah said. So if you deny Mahdi, you're denying the sadaqat of Rasulullah. There are 2 nights that are known. One is Shab Qadr, one is Shab 15th of Shaban. One is associated with Khatamul Anbiya, the other is associated with Khatamul Awsiya. So this is where the discussion leads into the fact that some of the questions that are asked surrounding Imam Zamana, that how can someone become an Imam at such a young age? He was only 5 years old. The story of him going up to the janazah of his father, where his uncle was about to start Salatul Janazah. He pulls him back and he says, this is my right. This is the Sirat of Ma'asumin that they would recite. And this was actually obligatory. This was also an announcement of sort that the person leading the prayer of the janazah of the Imam Marhum is the next Imam. That's why all of the Imams, the next Imam in line was the one who led the prayer of their fathers or the brothers in the case of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. So this is where Imam at the age of 5 leads the prayer for his father. He assumes the responsibilities of Imamat. So people question, can someone become Imam at such a tender age of 5? What are 5-year-old kids doing playing with toys? Don't question this. Don't be surprised. You already have precedent. You already have examples of that. Imam Jawad became Imam at the age of 8. Imam Naqib became Imam at the age of 9. So if those 2 became Imams at the tender age of 8 and 9, then why would you question the Imamat of 12th Imam at the age of 5? Age is not the factor in Imamat. Since Imamat is not inherited nor democratic, rather it's the position given by the consent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Prophet. Even Prophet is not choosing it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's choosing it through his consent. Prophet is picking up the Imams. Criteria is knowledge. Criteria is piety. Criteria is what Allah has invested in them. Someone said, and this is very disheartening. It's the day of Arbaeen. I did not want to bother you with these, but because I missed one day of Majalis, I wanted to make up for some of that. There are people within our own circles now questioning the capabilities of imams. Now they're denying the wujud of imam, using the ayat of Quran to deny the wujud of imam. And then second group is trying to do what? They believe in Imam Zamana, but they're limiting his effects. This scholar, he calls himself to be a scholar, pseudo-scholar in the UK. This year's Majalis Muharram came out speaking about the limitation of imams, saying imams do not have ilm ghaib, or they don't have anything that you and I cannot gain access to. If whatever ilm ghaib they have is something which you and I can also gain access to. And he denied the ismat and the infallibilities of imam, saying they were beautiful, supreme, elite souls. By refining their souls, they attained that status. And because of that, they gain access to different ulum and the naqawat and pakizgi and purity. So what happened to Innama yuridullah liyudhiba ankum rijsa ahlil bayt? What happened to all of these ayat which are referring to them that Allah is guaranteeing their taharat? Well, this person is questioning the imamat, questioning the ilm ghaib and ismat and taharat of masumin. It's disheartening really to see when someone from within your own circles, and this is nothing new, this is something which others have already proposed, this person is just copying and pasting from, not knowing the very fundamental belief in imamat is that imamat is not kasbi. You don't attain the level of imamat. It's given through Allah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The total foundation is lost. They thought it was kasbi. So if imamat is kasbi, then the ilm is also kasbi, that is acquired. Imamat is not acquired. Then what's the difference between us and the others who believe in the khilafat that is acquired by people? So age is not a factor in imamat. Since imamat is not inherited nor democratic. They say, well, imams don't have ilm ghaib. We are with you that imams don't have absolute ilm ghaib, nor did Rasul. But whatever absolute ilm ghaib belongs to Allah, as the many ayat of Quran allude to that. But Allah chose to share ilm ghaib with ma'asumin. There's nothing wrong with that. Ayat of Quran are filled with this. Did you not see the discussion where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to Rasulullah in the ayat of Surah Tahrim that we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed Rasulullah of what the wives were plotting against him. And one of the wives of the Prophet said, how did you find out? Rasulullah said, my Rabb informed me of that. My Rabb informed me of that. Or for example, the story of Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, where the ayat of Quran mentions that we told Hazrat Isa what people were doing in their houses. This is the ilm ghaib that Allah has given it to them. So this is something which is denying the ayat of Quran. Angels, Hazrat Jibreel used to bring revelation. Revelation stopped. But the nuzul of angels didn't stop. You recite this ayah from Surah Qadr. وَتَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالرُّوحُ. Tanazzalu is seemed as if it's a past tense, but it is tatanazzalu. The ta is hasf from it. Tatanazzal means they descend every year. Fifth Imam was asked, who do they come down to? Rasulullah is no longer alive. So they come down to us, upon us. Inform us of the affairs of our followers for the entire year. So Imam Zamana is given knowledge of you. قُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَرَى اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Act. Allah will see your action. Prophet will see your action. And mu'mineen will see your action. Who are these mu'mineen? Do you see someone's actions, even the ones that are private? Although with the advanced technology that we have, spying abilities that governments have, they're able to pinpoint to the very minute of our activities. A scary thought, isn't it? So you shouldn't have any doubt that when you and I as humans have excelled to the extent where we have developed these mechanisms by keeping surveillance on people, you think it's difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give this ability to his chosen ones? Definitely. This ayat is proof of that. You act. قُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَرَى اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Mu'min here refers to Imam. So the criteria is knowledge that Allah has given to them. Criteria of Khilafat was always knowledge. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. And the ilm that Hazrat Adam was bestowed with, that made him superior to all those angels. So criteria is knowledge and piety. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. So how can a 5-year-old be Imam? Well, Imam Jawad became Imam at the age of 8. Imam Naqi became Imam at the age of 9. Prophet Isa was in the crib when he became the prophet, and verified by saying, Inni Abdullah Tani al-Kitab wa ja'alani nabiyya. When his mother brings Hazrat Isa, those famous ayat where the people started questioning Hazrat Maryam, Ya Maryam, ma kana abuki imra'a sawin wa ma kana ummuki baghiya. Your father was not a bad person, evil person. Your mother was not a rebellious woman. What is this child that you have brought? We know you're not married. فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. So she pointed toward him. How do we speak to someone who's merely a child in his mahad, in his cradle? Hazrat Isa spoke. So he was only in the arms of his mother, not even 5 years old. Allah made him to be Nabi. وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا أَعْطَانِي الْكِتَابِ, and so on and so forth. Hazrat Yahya, Ya Yahya, خُذِ الْكِتَابَ بِقُوَّةٍ وَأَعْطَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمَ صَبِيًّا. Sabi is a child. So this is the tradition from Allah, that prophets became prophets when they were as young as a few days old, or children. Imams became Imam at the age of 8 and 9, then Imam Zamana. This is already a precedent which is ahead of you. Sometimes people question, how can someone live for such a long time? Doesn't age slow a person down? How does he get to live for so long? Is it possible logically? Can a person live for decades? Again, if you read Quran, you'll find out. Prophet Nuh, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فَلَبِثَ فِيهِمْ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ إِلَّا 50 عَامًا. He remained with his people for 950 years. 950 is mentioned by Quran. How old he was, that's another story. Some of the Qasas al-Anbiya mention 2,000 years old plus. Prophet Jesus was removed and lifted according to the Quran. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوا وَلَكِنْ شُبَّهَ لَهُمْ بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. They didn't kill him, nor did they crucify him, but it was made to appear that way for them. Indeed, Allah raised him up towards himself. So our belief is Hazrat Isa is alive. Logically, if someone says, I want to prove something, I can walk over the water, everybody will be surprised. Yeah, we want to see this. They'll come and this person does something and he walks over the water. Everyone is awestruck and amazed. Few years later, someone else comes and says, I can walk over the water. Some people say, well, people have done it in the past, but sure, it still is very amazing. Do it. He does it. They were still amazed by the performance, but it's sort of getting, old now. Another person comes along and says, I can do the same thing. So, well, very few people go and witness it because we've already seen it. Something is done in the past. In future, if someone else comes and says, I can do the same thing, it's no longer amazing. The biggest proof of the wujud of Imam Zamana, believe it or not, is what? Shaitan can live a long life to misguide people, then why can Mahdi live a long life to guide people? How is it possible for a person to... Does anyone deny the existence of Shaitan? No. Even those who don't believe in Allah, they won't deny the Shaitan's existence. قال ربي فأنظرني إلى يوم يبعثون قال فإنك من المنظرين إلى يوم الوقت المعلوم. You are indeed among the reprieved. We've given you this verse. Until the day of the known time. You know what that known time is? فإنك من المنظرين إلى يوم الوقت المعلوم. That known time, Rawayat mentioned, is the ghaibat of Imam Zamana will come to an end at that time. Imam's reappearance is the known time. Shaitan wants to stay to do what? وَلَأَغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. To misguide people. Allah says, we have reprieved you. You can do so. So Allah is allowing. If Allah doesn't allow Shaitan, can he stay? No. It's with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's saying, وَلَأَغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. I will misguide them. Allah lets him live. But Allah will not let his hujjat, the one who's there as a Mahdi, to live. Natural laws are broken. Life extended to such a long time doesn't have any effect. It doesn't slow people down. It doesn't make him tired soon. As you and I start to age, we get tired. That is not the case with Imam Zamana. Third question people rise, reason behind ghaibat and the use of ghaib Imam. We alluded to this the other day. Why does he have to have a long life? Why can't someone be born today called Mahdi? This is one of the beliefs of other sects. They believe that Imam Mahdi will come, but he hasn't born yet. We deny that fact. We say, no, the hujjat of Allah cannot be without. The earth cannot be without the proof and the hujjat of Allah. Hujjat and proof of God must remain on earth, just like Imam Zamana is amongst us. And Ghaib Imam is like the sun behind the clouds, which provides for our, nutritions and upbringing and guidance, just like sunlight is providing for all of us. People have to be on their toes waiting for Imam, like they should be with their death. Nobody knows when their death will come upon them. They should be ready all the time, prepared. You want to make sure that your aqibat is bil khair. If you keep that in mind, it will stop you from sinning. That God forbid, if I'm in the act of sin, what if my death comes at that time? What will I do? So you anticipate death every moment, you will refrain from sinning. People have to be on their toes, the reappearance of Imam, when Imam will come. Imam is looking after us all the time, but we might be heedless of it. Remember the story, a man came to Sheikh Mufid from one of the towns and asked him a question. Now, there's a woman who is pregnant and has died. Should we deliver the baby? Or she's about to die, for example. Should we deliver the baby first and bury her? Or should we bury her with the baby in the womb? Sheikh replied, don't need to deliver the baby. Just bury the body with the baby. The man, having taken the fatwa from the scholar, Sheikh Mufid, returned, and on his way, he was intervened by a riding man on a horse, approached him and said, Sheikh has changed his fatwa. Now he says, do everything possible to save the baby, bring her out of the womb first, and then bury the dead mother. That man went back and did as he was told. After a while, this whole story was narrated for Sheikh Mufid, who said, I didn't send anyone. In some riwayat, this child who was born out of this, birth, got old enough, came to see Sheikh Mufid. And some say, well, these same people who had come and asked and inquired Sheikh Mufid about this, they came back to him saying, thank you for changing your fatwa. Sheikh said, I didn't send anyone. And it is obvious that since that baby was alive, I was making a big blunder by giving that sort of verdict. It must have been Imam Zaman who intervened. Now that I know for sure that I'm making mistakes in my judgments and my verdicts, I will stop, and I should stop giving fatwa. This is Shaykh Mufid. By one mistake, he's willing to hang up, the proverbial cleats, as the ball players say, end of your career. He says, I'm finishing up. That's it. I shouldn't give fatwa anymore. But how is you and I attain a few, sciences, learn a few things, and give fatwas left and right? He said, I should stop giving fatwa. He went inside his home and he wouldn't come out to see those who would regularly come to see and ask him questions. Until one day he receives a letter from Imam al-Asr. Oh Shaykh, your duty is to give fatwa, and our duty is to watch over you and assist you whenever you make a mistake. It is narrated that 30 years, 30 letters came from Imam Zamana to Shaykh Mufid. In all of them, Imam referred to him as لِلْأَخِّ الْعَائِزِ السَّدِيدِ الشَّيْخ Mufid. Dear and honorable and upright brother. Yes, Imam Zamana is referring to him as brother, Shaykh Mufid. Look at his maqam that he has attained because of that. So our duties, and I'll bring you to conclusion. Every Muslim's duty in the time of ghaibat is to be caretakers of Islam. We can't just leave it on the next person, pass the baton. Make sure we play our role. In the story of when Hazrat Ibrahim was thrown into the fire, this little bird carrying water in its beak and went and poured over the fire. Someone said, look at the size of the fire, people are not even nearing it. How can you put it out, extinguish with this few drops that you can carry in your beak? So tomorrow, nobody will say that I didn't play my role. I'm doing what I am capable of doing. Whether it makes an impact or not, I will not be held accountable tomorrow. So we need to be caretakers of Islam. To pray for the safety of Imam, give sadaqah for his safety. Allah is protecting him. But we should play our role in having faith in Allah and faith that Imam will come by giving actively sadaqah on his behalf. Ask Allah to make Imam appear soon so that he may come and fill the world with truth and peace. Whenever the name of 12th Imam is said, you should stand up, placing your right hand on your head, bow your head, reciting salawat when his name is mentioned. Why? Because you're standing in the presence of Imam Hadir. Yes, he's in ghaibat, but he's amongst us. So this is where we understand the duty of Shias during this major occultation, is that we are muntazir of someone whose arrival is beneficial to us. We're called muntazir, and Imam is muntazar. Therefore, the one who is waiting is called muntazir, preparing himself for the appearance of Imam. What is an example of muntazir? It's like the one who waits for a guest's arrival at their house. If you invite someone to your house, you prepare food, you keep the house clean, upkeep of the house, you keep yourself neat and clean. This shows your preparations that you're really expecting someone. Therefore, we cannot sit back and relax if we are among the ones who are waiting for Imam. We must have a devout link with His Eminence during his occultation. Their hearts, our hearts, and souls should be filled with the love and the affection of Imam, devoted to his service and the desire to be in his company. Our prayers should be to ask for the blessing of Allah to be showered on His Eminence, and their supplication should be for salvation. Their existence, our existence, should be one welded and fused unit. And our lives should blaze with love for Imam Mahdi. And there are many signs of Imam's reappearance that will happen. Some are hatmi, some are ghairi hatmi. Some are definite signs, and some are conditional signs. I don't want to take more of your time than I already have. I'm sure the respected scholars in your area have spoken about this. This is just a reminder. Nothing new was mentioned in this series, just a reminder of how we can rekindle that connection with Imam Zamana. The concept of bada, that Shia believes that means the appearance of something is in a certain way, which we thought would happen otherwise. This is something which is a musallam aqidah of madhab tashayyu. But inshallah, when I'll get a chance, we'll elaborate more on this aspect. There are many books that you can refer to written in English and Urdu. There's a book translated into Urdu by my marhum father, Maulana Syed Rizvi, called Imam Mahdi. It covers, the entire book covers all of these events or all of these things that I mentioned, and of course, much more than what I was able to cover in these 4 nights that we spoke briefly. Today is the day of Arbaeen. During the day, you recited the ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. Many people today are lucky enough to be in the presence of Sayyid al-Shuhada. When we go for the ziyarat of Imam, do we do the ziyarat of Imam, or do we do the ziyarat of the zari of Imam? We, of course, touch the zari of Imam. We are in the presence where Imam is buried. Do we get to see Imam in person? No. But we believe that, according to the ayat of Quran, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ. Don't consider those who are slain in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be dead. They're alive. And that feeling of Imam Hussain in that vicinity, when Zainab came back to Karbala, there were 20 people with her. Today, there are 20 million people in Karbala. Who won? The victory was announced when Zainab spoke in the court of Yazid, raising her voice, which led to many people raising their voice. Yazid's own wife, his own daughter, that Safir, that ambassador from Rome, और मुख्तलिफ असहाब जो वहाँ मौजूद थे, उन सब ने अपनी आवाज़ बुलंद की इस एहतजाज में कि यजीद को महफिल बर्खास्त करनी पड़ी। उसी वक्त से उसको अंदाज़ा हो गया और उसके वो अल्फाज कि लानल्लाहु इब्न मरजाना, अल्लाह की लानत हो इब्न मरजाना पे। मैंने तो उसको नहीं कहा था कि इमाम को शहीद करें, मैंने तो कहा था कि उनको गिरफ्तार करके मेरे पास ले आए, और मुख्तलिफ बहाना तराशना शुरू किए। लेकिन अगर ऐसा ही था तो जाके यजीद ने क्यों नहीं पिसर साद को और उमर साद को या शिमर को या इब्न ज़ियाद को उनके उन उहदों से हटाया। इसका मतलब यजीद का हाथ मुलव्वस, इसमें कोई शुबा नहीं है। वो फख्र से बैठा है अपने तख्त के ऊपर शराब के नशे में, इमाम के सर के साथ हतक कर रहा है, बेहुरमती कर रहा है, और शराब उंडेलता है और गुनगुनाता है और अशआर पढ़ता है। लाइबत हाशिमो बिल मुल्क फला वाह्युन नज़ल वला खबर जा वला वाह्युन नज़ल, के बनु हाशिम ने तो सिर्फ और सिर्फ मजाक किया है हुकूमत के साथ। वला जा खबरुन वला वाह्युन नज़ल, कोई खबर नहीं आई, कोई वही नाजिल नहीं हुई। मैं काश मेरे अजदाद जिंदा होते, बद्र के, ओहद के, वो देखते कि मैंने कैसे इंतकाम लिया है, उनके खून का इंतकाम मैंने कैसे लिया है। इसीलिए तो कहा था इमाम हुसैन ने कि तुम्हें मुझसे क्या मसला है, कहा बुग़्ज़न ले अबीक, आपके बाप से बुग़्ज़ है, इसलिए ये काम किया। अजरुकुम अल्लाह। बस वो वक्त आता है कि ज़ैनब ने पहली फतह का ऐलान किया यजीद के दरबार में। यजीद को जब अपनी हुकूमत हिलती हुई नजर आई تو آ کے ان سے پوچھا کہ آپ کب جانا چاہیں گے، آپ کیسے جانا چاہیں گے، اور آپ کہاں کہاں سے گزر کے جانا چاہیں گے، آپ کے لیے ساز و سامان فراہم کیا جائے۔ یہ دوسری فتح تھی کہ جن کو اس بے دردی سے لایا گیا تھا شام میں، شہر کو سجایا گیا تھا، تماشبین کھڑے تھے اور ان کے سروں پہ چادریں نہ تھیں، اب ان کو احترام کے ساتھ ہماریوں میں بٹھا کے رخصت کرنے کا تقاضا کیا جا رہا۔ یہ دوسری فتح تھی زینب کی۔ زینب محض کچھ لوگوں کے ساتھ، 20 لوگوں کے ساتھ آئی ہیں کربلا مدینے جاتے ہوئے، لیکن آج حسین کی حرم میں، حسین کی سرزمین میں 20 ملین کے قریب لوگ موجود ہیں۔ یہ تا قیامت رہنے والی فتح ہے حسین کی اور زینب کی۔ اسی لیے تو کاش حدیث عشق دو بابس کربلا و دمشق، یہ کی حسین رقم کر دیگری زینب۔ بس وہ وقت آتا ہے کہ جب یہ قافلہ پہنچتا ہے کربلا میں اور ساری بیبیاں اپنے اپنے شہداء سے وداع کر رہی ہیں، ان کی قبروں کی زیارت نہ کر پائی تھیں، ان کو پتہ نہیں تھا کہ ان کو دفنا دیا گیا ہے۔ امام زین العابدین معجزے سے، اعجاز سے آئے تھے سویم کے دن 12 محرم کو، اور آ کے امام نے تدفین کے فرائض انجام دیے تھے۔ گنج شہیداں میں تمام شہداء کو رکھا، حضرت عباس کو وہیں نہر کنارے رکھا، امام حسین کو جہاں وہ شہید ہوئے رکھا، علی اصغر کو امام کے سینے پہ رکھا، علی اکبر کو امام کے پائنتی میں۔ اس طریقے سے تب سب کو تدفین سب کی ہوئی تھی۔ بیویوں نے یہ تدفین نہیں دیکھی تھی، لیکن اب جب پلٹ کے آئی ہیں تو کیا دیکھتی ہیں کہ قبریں موجود ہیں۔ ایک ایک بیوی قبر پہ جاتی ہے، گریا کرتی ہے، اپنے گزر جانے والے کے اوپر روتی ہے، لیکن سب بیویاں نے جب گریا کر لیا دل کھول کے، اب کوئی روکنے والا نہیں ہے، اب کوئی تعزیانے برسانے والا نہیں ہے، اب کوئی یہ نہیں کہتا کہ رو مت، گریا مت کرو، اب رونے کی اجازت نہیں ہے، نہ ہی کوئی رسن بستہ ہیں، نہ ہی کوئی زنجیر بندھی ہوئی ہے، اس لیے گریا کرنے کی اجازت ہے۔ جب سب نے دل کھول کے گریا کر لیا، زینب نے سب کو اکٹھا کیا، اب ہمارے کوچ کا وقت ہے، جانے کا وقت شروع ہوا، ایک ایک بیوی کو سوار کرا دیا۔ تمام بیویاں جب سوار ہو گئیں، زینب جو کہ سپہ سالار بنی ہوئی ہیں، دیکھتی ہیں بیمار امام بھی سوار ہو گیا، اب بیمار نہیں ہیں، امام کو تندرستی مل چکی ہے، سوار ہو گئے سب، لیکن ایک بی بی نظر نہیں آتی، رباب نظر نہیں آتی۔ جا کے دیکھا رباب حسین کی قبر پہ بیٹھی ہیں، گریا کر رہی ہیں۔ کہا بھابھی رباب، اب ہمارے وقت آ گیا ہے کوچ کرنے کا، قافلہ منتظر ہے آپ کا، چلیے۔ جناب رباب نے جواب دیا کہ زینب میں جا کے کیا کروں گی مدینہ، ارے میرے امام یہاں موجود ہیں، میرا ششماہا ان کے بغل میں سو رہا ہے، میری بیٹی شام میں رہ گئی، ارے رباب واپس جا کے کیا کرے گی، اجرکم اللہ، خدا کسی غم میں نہ رلائے سوائے غم آل محمد کے۔ یہ قافلہ پلٹ کے واپس مدینے آتا ہے، وہ وقت آتا ہے امام زین العابدین مدینے سے باہر توقف کرتے ہیں، بشیر کو بھیجتے ہیں کہ جا کے خبر سنا دو کہ وہ قافلہ جو گیا تھا بھرا گھر لے کے کربلا کی جانب، وہ پلٹ کے آ گیا ہے۔ بس بشیر نے جا کے اعلان کیا کہ اے لوگوں، حسین کا قافلہ پلٹ کے آ گیا ہے۔ لوگ پہنچتے ہیں مدینے کے باہر، اس بی بی کے پاس پہنچا، وہ بی بی ہے ام البنین فاطمہ بنت حزام۔ پوچھا میں نے تم سے سنا حسین کا قافلہ آ گیا، ارے حسین کیسے ہیں؟ اس نے کہا بی بی تمہارا فرزند عباس شہید کر دیا گیا۔ کہا حسین کیسے ہیں؟ کہا تمہارے فرزند عثمان کو شہید کر دیا، عبداللہ کو شہید کر دیا، جعفر کو شہید کر دیا، ایک ایک کا نام لے کے بتایا، تمہارے چاروں فرزند شہید ہو گئے۔ کہا میں تم سے حسین کا پوچھتی ہوں اور تم مجھے میرے فرزند کی بتاتے ہو۔ کہا حسین بھی شہید ہو گئے۔ کہا ممکن نہیں ہے عباس کے رہتے ہوئے یہ کام ہو سکے۔ کہا عباس جب تک زندہ تھے حسین پہ ایک آنچ نہ آئی، لیکن جہاں عباس اس دنیا سے رخصت ہوئے حسین بھی اس دنیا سے رخصت ہو چلے۔ اب ام البنین نے گریا شروع کیا، لوگوں نے ام البنین کو دلاسا دیا، ان کو کہا اے ام البنین آپ گریا نہ کریں۔ انہوں نے رو کے کہا ارے مجھ کو ام البنین مت کہو، وہ بنین ہی کہاں، وہ اولاد ہی کہاں جس کی میں ماں تھی۔ لعنت اللہ قوم ظالمین وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون بار الہ ہماری اس بات قبول فرما، ہم گناہ گار ہیں، ہمارا گناہوں سے درگزر فرما، ہمیں اہل بیت علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام کے نقش قدم پر چلنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ان کی تعلیمات پر عمل کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ہمارا تعلق اور ہمارا رابطہ امام سے اور مستحکم اور قوی تر بنا، ہمارے امام کے ظہور میں تعجیل فرما، ان کے اعوان انصار میں شمار کر، ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم.
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، لے کے داغ سینے میں شام کی جدائی کا، حق ادا کرے زینب کیسے اپنے بھائی کا، قافلہ اتر آیا صبر کی خدائی کا، قافلہ اتر آیا صبر کی خدائی کا، کربلا کے میدان پر فاطمہ کی جائی کا، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، دور تک نگاہوں میں شام کا اندھیرا ہے، کربلا سے کوفے تک حادثوں نے گھیرا ہے، جب سے نونہالوں نے منہ کو اپنے پھیرا ہے، جب سے نونہالوں نے منہ کو اپنے پھیرا ہے، مامتا کی گودی میں موت کا بسیرا ہے، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، بعد کربلا بھائی ہر طرف قیامت تھی، بیردارسن بستا راہ شام سے گزری، بھائی ہم تماشا تھے راستے تماشائی، بھائی ہم تماشا تھے راستے تماشائی، ہر قدم دعا یہ تھی کاش غازی آ جائے، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، موت کے بیاباں میں زندگی کا ماتم ہے، ظلم کے اندھیروں میں روشنی کا ماتم ہے، آنسوؤں کے طوفان میں تشنگی کا ماتم ہے، آنسوؤں کے طوفان میں تشنگی کا ماتم ہے، ایک بہن کے حصے میں ہر کسی کا ماتم ہے، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، اربعین کرنا ہے شاہ کربلائی کا، भाई अब खुदा हाफिज कब्र से चली ज़ैनब बिन तेरे गुजारेगी कैसे जिंदगी ज़ैनब उठ गई फरीद आखिर कह के या अली ज़ैनब उठ गई फरीद आखिर कह के या अली ज़ैनब दर्द व गम की दुनिया में फिर से खो गई ज़ैनब अरबईन करना है शाह करबलाई का अरबईन करना है शाह करबलाई का या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन.
Assalamu alaikum. Tonight's sponsors are Syed Janali Naqvi and Sayyida Amber Fatima Naqvi. They request the community to remember their marhumeen, in particular, Sayyid Dr. Ali Raza Naqvi and Sayyida Hubbe Zahra Naqvi, as well as the marhumeen of all of your families with a Surah Fatiha, masbukatan bis salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. This concludes the series of Arbaeen Majalis by Syed Rizwan Rizvi. On behalf of the Baitul community, I would like to thank him for addressing the community during this particularly trying time for him and his family. As you are all aware, his father, Hujjatul Islam, Maulana Sayyid Tilmiz Rizvi, passed away a few days ago. The commander of the faithful, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, is reported to have said, when a learned religious scholar dies, a void occurs in Islam that nothing will fill except if he is succeeded by one like him. Hujjatul Islam, Maulana Sayyid Tilmiz Rizvi's void is indeed a loss for the entire Shia community of North America. May Almighty Allah accept his endeavors and elevate his status in the company of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. The Baitul Ilm community sends its sincerest condolences to Hujjatul Islam, Sayyid Rizwan Rizvi and his family on their loss. Our next program will be this Thursday, September 30th. The program will begin with Salatul Maghribain at 7:30 p.m. This will be followed by Dua Kumail and Majlis that will be addressed by Hujjatul Islam, Maulana Sheikh Amir Mukhtar Faizi. This will be an in-person program and we encourage everyone and their families to attend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.